What's going on, everybody? I'm BJ from Cybersecurity Investment Research, and today I'm going to give you an overview on the cybersecurity space. So let's get right to it. First, what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is the technology that safeguards and protects almost anything and everything that can be digitized, and that includes personal information, private documents, records of communication, network access, and sensitive data. So who are we protecting these things from? The answer to that are hackers and cybercriminals. So cybercriminals have been around for a really long time. I'm sure they were around in the first few years of the internet. But what's happening today and what's making them very relevant? So today, anyone can be a cybercriminal. So these hackers are popping up like pests. But unlike pests, these guys are actually very organized. So today, hackers street hacking like a business. What they do is very sophisticated and very tactical. When they attack, they have strategies and they have a purpose. So it's not a question whether cybercrime and cybercriminals are a problem or not. It's a question of how big is the cybercrime problem. I have a few statistics that will sort of clear the air and show you how big of a problem cybercrime actually is. So first, did you know that 86% of cybercrime or cyber attacks are financially motivated? So you might be wondering what's attracting all of these people. And to give you some perspective on that, did you know that the global average price tag for a cyber attack was $3.86 million in 2020? And this number drastically jumps when you consider only attacks to the United States. That number is $8.64 million. This is the average price tag. So some cyber attacks are even much more expensive or even cheaper than this, but the average is $8.64 million. That's a huge number. So if you were to collate or summarize all of the cyber attacks, it's estimated that in 2021, this number would come up to $6 trillion. You know how big $6 trillion is? So if these cyber criminals all got together, all cyber criminals in the world got together and formed an independent state, they would be able to make the third largest economy in terms of GDP next to the US and China. What's worse is that this number is not slowing down. By 2025, it's projected that this number is going to reach 10.5 trillion US dollars. That's a huge number. And no wonder people are attracted to becoming cyber criminals and hackers. There's a lot of money involved. There's a big possibility for them to get rich. So why has cybercrime become more practical than ever? So I've got two catalysts for you. The first is digitization. I'm sure you all know that almost anything and everything that we could have digitized has been digitized already. Like what I said earlier, this includes personal information, maybe credit card details, maybe bank details, maybe healthcare, insurance, all of that stuff, even educational details. They're all online now and they are all accessible and can be hacked by criminals. And of course, this was accelerated by the pandemic. So everything has moved online and now everything is on the tip of the fingers of hackers. Next, cryptocurrencies. If you guys are not familiar with cryptocurrencies, these are digital currencies. So why is digital cryptocurrencies making cybercrime more practical than ever? Well, because of the anonymity of cryptocurrencies, criminals are now more confident that they can escape or get away from the law enforcement once payments have been made. So these two catalysts together have made cybercrime more practical than ever, and of course, more accessible in all parts of the world. So what does this mean for the cybersecurity space? Well, we think that the rise in cyber attacks and cyber criminals are signaling and pointing towards higher investments in the general cybersecurity industry. But before going into that, I want to talk about two particular cyber attacks that happened recently. And the first is the Kaseya attack. So Kaseya is an IT management company. So when they were hacked, it affected thousands of companies around the world. And that includes a Swedish grocery chain and a school in New Zealand. So this is very important to note because once things cross the border outside of the United States, the government tends to take more notice because of international relations, right? Next, we have the Colonial Pipeline attack. So again, the government took notice because it not only affected a private company with some data breach, but it shut down almost half of the East Coast's petroleum pipeline. We think that these two attacks serve as a catalyst for the US government to take action. And this led to President Biden's executive order to improve the nation's cybersecurity. So the first thing you want to point out in this executive order is that Biden wants to boost outdated federal security. Today, the Fed's cybersecurity is outdated and is absolutely no match for the sophistication of cyber criminals and hackers today. Next, Biden also wants to create a centralized bank of cybersecurity intelligence. So what's this bank going to do? This is going to be very beneficial for cybersecurity developers, because with a centralized bank, they're going to have exposure to different kinds of hacking attempts and different kinds of cyber criminals, and they're going to be able to tailor their cybersecurity to match anything and everything that has come out before. And hopefully it will help us combat these criminals better in the future. So Biden aims to achieve these two goals by giving a $9.8 billion budget. So the question is, will this budget be used for in-house development of cybersecurity, or can it be used for contracting private cybersecurity developers? And this is the big question mark. So will private companies be the one to benefit or not? So with that, I want to dive right into some additional catalysts or tailwinds that the cybersecurity space can actually benefit from. So the first is cloud computing. So cloud computing allows us to get everything quick, efficient, optimized, but it also allows cyber criminals to get things just as fast. So everything's at the tip of our fingers, but it's also at the tip of their fingers. Next, we have AI and automation, right? So everything today is all about optimizing and automating everything so that everything's quick. But there are so many movies that have warned us about the robots taking over our world. And I think it's about time that we invest in cybersecurity so that we don't get conquered by the robots. And lastly, digitization. I already talked about digitization earlier today, but yes, again, the pandemic has forced us to accelerate digitization. So almost everything we have and everything we know is in the internet. And it's also very accessible for cyber hackers. Okay. So there's a nice little graphic here. So the current situation shows that companies belonging in these respective industries spend only 8% of total IT spending on cybersecurity. So what can you get out of this graph? Well, what we understand from this graph is that companies actually do have the budget to spend on cybersecurity. It's just not going to cybersecurity as much as we believe that it should be. So there is an opportunity for companies to increase their cybersecurity spending. We believe that it's not a matter of if, but only a matter of when. Okay. So going into the types of cybersecurities, there are actually just 4 overarching segments of cybersecurity. So the first is cloud and network security. So let's say that the cloud and network security is like the bodyguards or the security guards in a central bank. Okay. Next, we got secure access. So secure access means probably the guards who are ensuring that anyone who has access are only the people that should have access. Okay, only the right people. Next, we have email. So email security is basically just the communication between all the employees or everyone that's important working under the bank. And then lastly, we have endpoint and advanced threat. So this is a bit more complicated, but you can understand it as the security guards in the branches of the bank. So endpoints includes tablets, phones, laptops, desktops at home. So very important because once again, the pandemic has forced us into a work from home setting. So with the increase in the number of endpoints, there's also an increase in the number of entries or opportunities for hackers to enter the main systems of companies and entities. Okay, so there's another little graphic here, which shows a few of the companies that service particular segments of cybersecurity and also whether they are incumbents or the up and coming challengers. Okay, so there's a lot to digest in this slide, but we took the liberty of picking out the top players in the industry. So we have included their latest financial performance, specifically their revenue growth and their earnings per share growth. We have also added the projections for next year and the year after that. Okay, So you can pause the video right now if you want to take a look at the data, or if you want to look into the prospects of these companies in the next coming years. But we have also picked out 10 companies that we believe are the best companies to participate in for the whole sector. Okay, so the order of priority is from left to right, then top to bottom. So our absolute highest conviction pick is CRWD or CrowdStrike, followed by Cloudflare or Net, and so on and so forth until March. Okay, so using these top 10 picks, we also made a little graphic plotting them into the corporate life cycle. So you see we have a few young growth companies here, Sentinel-1 and Okta, high growth, CrowdStrike, Cloudflare, and Zscaler. We have two in our mature growth segment, Tenable Network Securities and Varonis. And lastly, we have mature stable companies, Fortinet, Palo Alto Networks, and Mimecast. So you can use this corporate lifecycle chart to sort of set your expectations for the price movement of the stocks moving forward. Whether it's short-term or long-term, we do believe that the cybersecurity space in general is definitely one that you should be participating in, or you could possibly benefit from in the near future. Okay. And that's all for today's video. I hope this video helps, and I hope you guys have a clear picture of what's happening in the cybersecurity industry today, what you can expect in the near term, what you can expect way down the line. Definitely, we believe that this is a space that you should be watching for investments. And yeah, until the next video.